financial success than casting the default, casting what? The reality is exactly the opposite.
Couldn't be more clear, right? Why is it not converting though?
Well, it's not converting because people see all of the counter evidence as exceptions. You know, if you have a conversation with a studio and they'll tell you, and this is actually data that I think we need to address as a community more, or someone who's a data scientist needs to explore, there's an assumption that you cannot sell people of color internationally. Yeah, maybe you'll make money in the US because there are a lot of black folk running around that go to movies disproportionately, but as soon as you go to France, as soon as you go to England, they don't want to see black people on screen. And then you say, what about Will Smith? For a while, maybe not anymore, but for a while, biggest star in the world. They're like, yeah, well, Will's kind of the exception that proves the rule. What about Eddie Murphy? Well, that was the 80s, it's different. What about Denzel? Well, you know, he's another exception. What about Jamie Foxx? Well, that only works in Quentin Tarantino movies. What about Samuel L. Jackson? Well, what about Martin Lawrence? Big Mama's House 2 made money for him. So I guess the point is like, the #2 movie of all time in France is Untouchables. And that movie works because of a performance by a Senegalese French actor named Omar Sy. Like, the notion that black people don't sell abroad is a fallacy, and it's unproven. And it rests on an assumption, by the way, that everywhere around the world, people are happy to embrace us as athletes, because you can't go to a city in the world that doesn't have at least one African on their soccer team. It rests on the assumption that they'll consume our music, but that somehow when we go into a movie theater, I don't want to do that. And it's just not true. And the fact of the matter is if you look at the correlation between foreign success for a movie and what's in the movie, the relationship really has to do with the marketing budget. And so studios will say, well, we can't sell black movies abroad, so we're not going to market them. And then when they don't make money, they say, oh, it's because they were black. Not because they didn't market the movie.
Marketing line item on the budget as well.
So that is a piece of conventional wisdom that is just accepted as fact. The fact of the matter is, if you have more people of color in senior positions, they will recognize that as bull. And as a consequence, those things will begin to change. We're not at that point yet. There is not a black person at a major studio with a title above senior vice president. Fact. So I think, it's a war on all fronts. But I think it comes down to two things. One is consumers, one is the creatives, and I think there's a lot of responsibility currently on the shoulders of our big stars. It is incumbent upon Viola, Denzel, Will, Samuel L. Jackson to work with talent of color. Exactly. I would love to see Will Smith be directed by a black director. And by the way, I say that because there are a lot of great black directors out there, and Will Smith is one of our greatest actors, and I want to pay my $15 to see that. Okay. Will and Malcolm X?
I didn't hear it. We're not gonna do that. We're gonna bring the mic. We'll do that.
I mean, Denzel does it. I'm saying I don't think Will's in Malcolm X.
No, he wasn't.
But everybody's talking about it.
Yeah.
I'm not able to hear what's happening out there, but I'm not doing that. That's what I'm not going to do, though. Do you want to make a comment? Do you want to make a comment, Cheryl?
What was the question?
I think we're just talking about on what fronts we need to fight the war to increase diversity.
Talking about other roles other than being in front of the screen. What other roles do we need to really concentrate on trying to collectively penetrate to influence what ultimately is being produced to show our images to the world? That was the question.
Yeah, I think I agree with what you said in terms of having people who are in